Hello, Education 633 students. My name is Brian Ferguson, and this is my presentation on return on investment, also known as ROI. We're going to be specifically looking at ROI in the context of instructional design. Instructional designers are tasked with making countless decisions in every project they complete. Stefaniak, 2020. Evaluative decisions involve an individual assigning worth to a possible option and then determining that level of commitment if they were going to proceed with that option. Again, from Stefaniak. According to Opperman et al. 2016, the Kirkpatrick model is a 4-level evaluative framework, with the levels in this order, as first being reaction, really looking at the learner's perception, how they feel about the learning environment, how they feel about the instruction. The second thing they look at is learning. We want to measure the increase in knowledge and in skills, actually find out, was learning accomplished? Did we meet the goals of that particular learning, and how did we meet those goals? The next that they look at is the transfer of learning. Again, in this particular case, what is the behavior change? What did we want as far as the outcome? And again, what behaviors changed because of the intervention or the educational environment? And then lastly, in the Kirkpatrick evaluation framework is results. They want to look at the organizational effect. Was it effective or was it not effective? Following that, we also want to look at ROI. According to Opperman et al. 2016, Phillips built upon the Kirkpatrick model. And again, by generally speaking, he added ROI. Again, return on investment. And ROI really looks at the monetary benefits compared to the impact measures that were taken. Return on investment, or ROI, is essentially a cost effectiveness strategy employed mostly by businesses to ensure that the cost is evaluated compared to the outcome. This is typically calculated by a ratio type format, which will be given in a percentage. The concept has been applied to instructional design as well. Typically, much more than simply calculating a formula, ROI is a part of a very complex evaluation procedure. This may be done as a standalone process outside of the instructional design approach, or it could also be one that's embedded within the design procedure. ROI provides further data for administrative decision making, Opperman et al. 2016. With this data, in an instructional setting, one might justify planning and budgets, plan or allocate resources, or even evaluate the value of an educational endeavor. The steps to calculate ROI were given by Opperman et al. 2016. And first, you identify program desired outcomes. We want to start with the goals. Second, we want to describe the educational interventions that are proposed to meet those outcomes or those goals. Next, we want to plan the logistics of the educational intervention or the educational learning opportunity with sufficient detail to, again, identify expenses. Next come all the calculations. First, we need to calculate program costs. Those could be planning time, supplies, setup time, faculty and staff time. Next, we want to calculate potential savings. This could be cost of turnover, pressure, litigation, inefficiency of program changes. Step 6 is to compare the cost to the savings. And again, we're looking at efficiency here. And then finally, determine specific outcomes using observable and measurable terms. Again, looking at the overall effectiveness. The ROI calculation is not actually very complex. ROI, again, given as a percentage, looks at the program benefits and then subtracting the costs, then dividing that by the program costs, and then multiplying it by 100. Again, giving a percentage as the outcome. However, the formula is not the end result. ROI should really be seen as a part of the evaluation framework. Evaluation, again, is not just about the calculation. Rather, ROI plays a critical role along with other performance measures. In education, there are also less tangible factors to consider, such as increased success rates, reduced number of dropouts, and improved faculty and student skills, Graham 2008, which are very difficult to put a value on. ROI is a very important process, and Phillips et al. 2018 argues that large expenditure should be tied to the success of the organization. We should be looking at these things. And even in non-business settings, ROI is an important process. However, of 69 professional development studies following a specific process of evaluation called evidence-based practice, only 11 studies addressed ROI. It may be that this process is underutilized. Although ROI has major implications on the finances of the organization, as well as the success of the organization in achieving its intended goals and outcomes, Graham 2019 reports that according to a 2010 study, only 26% of European companies measured ROI, and a dismal 3% of global companies completed the process. So the big question is why? Why is ROI not a process that people involve themselves in? Phillips et al. 2018 shares a list of items they feel are why ROI is not a process that's fully invested in. Well, it could be that results are just feared, or evaluations are not necessary or not measured. Could be that measurement is not planned for, or measurement is just too difficult, or that measurement is not the fun part of the process. Think about a technology project, how fun it is to get that technology into the hands of the teachers and the students. But unfortunately, it's just not fun to do the measuring. Or it could be an idea or a way of thinking that we just can't evaluate them all, so we're not going to do any at all. Or the one that I think is really the case, that personnel are just underprepared. In the educational context, administrators spend a lot of time putting out fires. They're seeking to get bond measures approved or applying for grants. School business leaders can spend so much time on reporting rather than strategic use or analysis. And in many cases, many business leaders in educational institutions are not educators by profession, and therefore they don't have a strong grasp of instructional measures. Opperman 2016 says, because of the complexity of determining ROI for programs, pragmatically, it's only used in about 5 to 10% of program planning processes for priority decision making. And often those are things like regulatory, higher risk, or more expensive programs. Nonetheless, ROI is an incredibly important process, one again that should be taken in the totality of the evaluation framework to really determine the effectiveness of your intervention or your education. Thank you so much, Education 633 students. Hope this presentation was able to give you some value on ROI.